One advantage of this new video format is it forces me to condense the time on which I speak. Certainly, in a lot of my old videos, I spoke for way too long. So I'm going to try and get straight to the point here. I want to talk about my experience personally with overseas Chinese people. There's a few reasons why I want to do this. Firstly, I've noticed that there is a lot of videos online that are very, very negative and very critical about the way Chinese people are perceived to behave in other countries, and it's overwhelmingly negative. Things like they're very rude, they're very arrogant, this sort of thing. Um, and certainly there's this perception in the rest of Asia as well. And I think a lot of Chinese people themselves are aware of this stereotype. But I just want to speak about my own experience, and there's a few things I promise in this video. Firstly, I'm going to be 100% honest. Secondly, everything I'm talking about is not based on a generalization. I want to make that very, very clear. If I was generalizing, I'd be coming, I'd have a racist outlook on it, and I absolutely do not. Um, Honestly, hand on heart, some of the most honest, most generous, most decent, most helpful people I have known have been Chinese people. That's the truth, and it's the truth from my own experience. But by the same token, some of the most arrogant, nationalistic, the subjective people I've known have also been Chinese. So the point I'd like to make is when we talk about Chinese people, you can't generalize. It's a very, like any country, you get a wide range of people. What I have noticed is there's a discrepancy between the real world and online. Now, to start with the negative, my experience of overseas Chinese people online, my perception is that they're very nationalistic. Whenever there is anything that is even a little critical of China as a country, they immediately get in there and get very defensive and very nationalistic and how dare you Westerners criticize us and all this sort of thing. It's very, very defensive in a way that you don't really see from other countries. I mean, the United States of America is criticized all the time. So is Britain. But you don't really see, well, I can't speak for the Americans, but certainly in Britain, I don't think you have the same level of defensiveness. If there's a video criticizing the British government, generally speaking, British people will not be going on that video in legions, getting really worked up about it. Um, and certainly, I'm fine with criticism of the British government if it's fair criticism. I will occasionally defend our position if I also believe that's the right position. But you don't see the same level of nationalism, and this is something that is very, very obvious with the new China. And it's something that goes back throughout Chinese history, way back to the Middle Kingdom. So I honestly wonder, would these people be speaking in the sort of tone they're speaking in the real world? Now, why do I assume that they're overseas Chinese? Because simple reason, YouTube is blocked in China. So unless they have a VPN, not many people do, then it's a fair assumption that they're making their comments from a country that allows YouTube, which means generally a country outside China. So that sort of notion of defending the same regime that stops you using this website to me is a bit hypocritical. Um, I recently got into a long running argument on a video with the Chinese ambassador being interviewed by Robert Peston. Now, nothing I said in that was remotely racist, but I did get quite angry and I gave as good as I got. There was quite a lot of people there coming out with the nationalist rhetoric, coming out with, and I made the point to some of those people, well, wait a second, you're accusing the BBC of bias, but what exactly do you want? Do you want this journalist to simply slavishly agree with everything the ambassador is saying? That's not objective. That's not fair. And I do think it's hypocritical to criticize the BBC when the fact of the matter is in China, all media is directly controlled by the Communist Party. So there really is no level playing field over there. It's just a fact. And British people could not protest against Xinhua in the same way. But that's the negative side. Um, and it's something that I've noticed there is a real nationalism from a lot of overseas Chinese. But this is not something I have seen that is online. But this is not something that I have seen in in person. I have had a few debates person to person, but that's generally been very civil and very open minded. And it comes back to this point that there is a difference between the cyber world and the real world. That's quite obvious. Now, most of the Chinese people I've known, in if there's any negative side, it's kind of that they can be a bit materialistic. Some of the people I've known have been a bit money driven and a bit. You know what? I'm going to go into a part two with this because in a second this is going to say that I've run out of space. So I'm going to go into a part two.